You ever stare at your Warzone loadouts for so long, you start wondering if the devs fell asleep on the update button? With Season 4 Reloaded looking about as exciting as a white crayon, I figured why not spice things up by going backwards. I went back and tested the meta from every single MW3 Warzone season and threw them in the blender against today's meta, just to see if nostalgia slaps harder than the AMAX ever did. So buckle up. We're about to find out if yesterday's meta was fire or if we were just as desperate back then. Because if the devs won't give us new content, I'll make my own. So taking a look back, Season 1 meta on the long range was the DG58 LSW. We have a look at the recoil here. It's actually not too bad. I tried to stay fairly true to the meta builds, but if there was some stuff that just was needed, I did make the change. Seeing how she shoots? It shoots pretty straight here. And it doesn't hit too bad. Here's the build we went with, trying to stay true to the Season 1 meta. Taking a look at the close range, I think it was pretty much the striker for Season 1. So that's what I went with for this test. She shoots pretty straight. It has this, but it has the same issue that all of the MW3 stuff has, is that visual shake. So if you can get by that, I think she should have a good run. Taking a look at the TTK chart, you can see right here, the DG is going to have it in tough against the Krieg C, with a pretty big difference in that first TTK range for both damage and it being so much shorter. Once you get past about 22 meters, probably not going to be close. And if we have a peek at the chart comparing the striker to the LC10, you can see it's definitely a difference here. The striker isn't that far behind that 600 millisecond TTK we'd be looking for, but that first damage range goes out a long way, which is good, but I still think we're going to be in tough against some people running the LC10. There we go. Okay.
And I'm
There we go.
that.
There's one guy. That kill there. So kind of looking at and using the Season 1 meta guns, I think the biggest thing on the front when it comes to the DG is that damage range is a massive issue. The striker, while still competitive range-wise, and to an extent TTK-wise, it's not so far out that you're going to get absolutely melted every time. I just feel like I'm moving in mud with it. On to Season 2. So when we think back to Season 2, the meta was the pull me out with that conversion kit on there. It was run around all maps forever. Recoil on her now. I mean, it hops pretty good to start, but that mag does go forever, and it does slow down after a bit. Still pretty easy to control. Visual shake is a bit annoying as it is with a lot of the non-BO6 weapons, whether it's MW2 or MW3. So here's the build we went with. Again, trying to stay pretty true. The Jack Annihilator kit, of course. Oreo was pretty much the meta at the early going before the Jack Blastless came out. And I think that this gun still will work. We'll see how it goes. Close range for Season 2, as best as I can recall through my research, WSP Swarm. This was a nice to use gun for sure. Recoil on it now is, I mean, it's pretty quick up, but it's fairly straight. And that 100 round mag will keep you in a lot of fights for quite a bit. If we look at this TTK chart on screen right now, you can see it suffers range issues for sure. And the visual recoil is so bad. Well, let's see if we can stay out of some trouble with that 100 round mag. Here's the build on the WSP Swarm. You will notice that they have changed, as we earlier discussed, some of the effects and some attachments. So the Brew and Pendulum is kind of the compensator I've been going with on the close range stuff, because it's doing a better job of keeping stuff in control, things like that, rather than what we would have used in the past. And don't forget that 100-round mag on this, it is the key. As we can see here, for the Pull Me Out as well, the range is an issue for a lot of these MW3 guns. We'll see how we can make out with these two. Let's get into the game, see what happens. Nope.
Reloading.
Nope. That visual shake is gonna be the death of me.
Help, get him.
So all in all, I really struggled with the Pull Me Out. The big lumbering LMG just really doesn't have a place for me anymore in this game. I just don't think it's viable at all. And Rebirth especially, but the visual shake, just how slow you move, it's not usable right now to me. Taking a look at the Swarm, you know, you can see I got into it a bit. Got a couple of two pieces, was able to move around pretty well. It's definitely a bit slower. That 100-round mag helps a lot when you're going in outnumbered. So there is some viability. That range we discussed earlier, bit of an issue, but you know what? If you can keep your battles in close quarters, inside buildings, things like that, don't have to worry about getting out to 12, 14, 15 meters, I think it's usable. So Season 3 meta was going on for quite a while. It is going to be the return of the Ram 7. We'll see how she goes in game, see what it's like now with the changes and updates they've made. Recoil, very reminiscent of how it was before. Not too bad, slight to the right, but pretty much straight up. Problem is, it's still that visual shake, right? Once you start getting too deep down lane, it just doesn't. The shake is so hard to control and keep in mind. You see, that's not a problem. Even to that 25 meter range, we're okay. When you start wanting to fight out closer to 50, it becomes really difficult with all that visual shake to get her going. Build on the Ram 7 is going to be very, very familiar for you. Kept it pretty true to the Season 3 meta from MW3 when we were all running it for what felt like forever. Great iron sights. We're going to go see how they work in-game. Close range, HRM. Gonna run this guy. It's still pretty viable actually in today's game. Recoil is pretty easy to control. It hops up there at first and then chills out with a slight veer to the left, which is not a huge deal. Up close, very usable. Still got a bit of visual shake, but the visual shake isn't too bad on this one. Okay, we might be onto something. This one might be workable and usable in game. We're gonna change up a couple of things on the HRM, bring it into today a little bit. We're gonna keep that Thorn 90 barrels, keep the Grau irons on it. Kind of sucked back in MW3 Warzone. We never got like an HRM 5.56 we were all kind of hoping for to get the Grau and, you know, an AR style back. But hey, it is what it is. We got her back now, right guys? We're gonna go to the Brew and Pendulum and we're gonna change up that underbarrel. I think it's just gonna work a little bit better in today's game with some of the adjustments they've made over time. Now, when we take a look at the TTK chart we've got over here, we're gonna notice that, yeah, you know what? The Ram does struggle. You're about 150 milliseconds slower than the Craig in the first damage range, and that first damage range is almost 20 meters less. That's going to be tough to overcome. But that being said, we'll give it a go, see what happens. And looking at the HRM TTK chart, we can see that, you know what? It's not bad. It's just over that 600 millisecond TTK in the first damage range. That's kind of the gold standard. You want to make sure you're around there. So it may work out well. What it's going to struggle with is that burst damage range, as you can see, is only about just past 10 meters, maybe 11. so it's not going to compete in that kind of 10 to 15, 16 meter range with the LC10, C9, things like that. But if you can hit your shots, put some moves on some opponents, you might be able to make her work. Let's see how we do.
Fucking Christ, bro.
So really, the RAM, I struggled to find an effective range to use it at. Kind of in that 15 to 20-ish meters was kind of what the only real viable place I found effective to take any gunfights, which makes it just totally unusable because there's SMGs you could use that would fill that gap adequately enough while giving you the ability to use a Craig or an, or something with a longer range, pushing it out to 45, 50 meters for longer range engagement. So the RAM just seems like caca right now. Now the HRM, on the other hand, that worked. It's not a bad change up to your normal LC10 Ladra C9 stuff right now. It can be a fun little change up for sure. Something you can definitely use in game. And I think you can still be effective and change it up, be a little throwback fun for you for sure. So taking a look at the Season 4 meta, I think that's where we started to see the movement Kar 98 coming to be. Now, not really any recoil to worry about or anything like that. If you hit your shots, you're good. So we'll have to see whether I can hit my shots or not. So like I say, when it comes to the movement sort of car builds, I think you go with the range collar, 3.4 scope there, sonic suppressor. I still like the long barrel on it. You can do that. I know there's a couple people who will put a quick scope like type laser on it and dump the suppressor. I still like the bit of a combo on it, so this is how I'm going to run it, but no stock and the high grain rounds to give us as much range as we can. We're going to get out to one to the head at 67 meters, so I think that should do a lot for us, and it's going to get us one shot to the head for most of our engagements on range. And when it comes to the close range, this is where we started to see the superior emergence come to be. Rebirth sweats, YY TikTokers all over the place. Great movement. You know what? It's still pretty effective these days. If we take a look at the TTK chart, you can see you're just over 600. It's only to just under 10 meters for that first damage range, though, and then it boosts out to about 800. That's where you're going to be in a bit of an issue. But if you stay in tight, running around, say, control center, something like that, shouldn't be a problem. You can make some people miss with some movement. I think you'll be gold, but let's see how she plays going against today's LC10 and the likes of that. The build for the Zaperi stayed very consistent. Only thing I'm going to change up here is we're going to go to that Bruin pendulum muzzle. I think they just, with those adjustments made to the muzzles and the effect they've had, that's the way to go. 499 short barrel, Jack Slash for the movement, the 40 round mag, it's the biggest you can get on this gun, you're gonna need it, and the Rescue 9 stock. So as I'm sure you can see, I'm not the world's greatest sniper. But you know what? That doesn't matter. because the car-Saperi combination still to this day is one of the more effective ways to play Rebirth. You can use that Saperi to follow up your initial shot with the car very effectively, and you move so well with it as well, with both of them for that matter. This is 1000% still viable and still a fun loadout to be using today. For Season 5, long-range meta was the STG. It does take a bit of a turn to the right there, but it doesn't go too vertical. She shoots pretty straight. Okay. That shoots pretty straight and is quite controllable. The biggest thing was the Jack Glassless came around at this time as well. Changed the meta for the long range wholeheartedly, just made stuff so much easier to shoot. It doesn't do quite what it used to, not quite as effective as it was, but you know what? Still does an amazing job, help mitigating some of the visual recoil, but there still is a good deal there. Close range build in Season 5 was the Lackman Shroud with the conversion kit. Made it fully automatic, and it's pretty straight up in the recoil. And because it's the Shroud, it's fully suppressed. Moves pretty well, and actually it's still been a pretty big favorite among a lot of people, even during the BO6 version of Warzone. So that Jack Decimator kit makes it full auto instead of being the burst, and you've got the integrated suppressor, so you don't need to worry about that. Here's the build we're going to want to run. If you take a look at the TTK chart here, you'll see that the STG is finally a MW3 gun that extends out damage range-wise to compete with the Krig C. But unfortunately, you'll also note that the TTK is much higher. When you look at the Shroud, you'll notice the TTK is right at about 600 milliseconds, which is kind of that gold standard we've been talking about wanting to keep your close-range SMGs at. We've got the LC-10, of course, dropping way below that at this point, but the 600 milliseconds has always been the rule of thumb, so you're in there and be usable. Biggest thing you'll notice, 13 meters on that first damage range, which makes it kind of effective, especially once you get past that 16 meter range. It's neck and neck with the LC-10. This has some potential.
How the fuck are you not dead?
That visual recoil is just so bad. So when it comes to the STG, that visual recoil, it's still going to be a concern for everybody and everything right now. Any of the MW2, MW3 guns, I just think it makes it not worth using. The Lockman Shroud, on the other hand, that thing does still shred. Definitely something you can use. Rip that thing out, have some fun. Just run that Decimator kit on. Now the Season 6 meta was the DTIR. This was running the game for so long. I think the whole last season. I can't even remember anything else but it during the end of MW3 Warzone at all. Slow fire rate, but not a ton of recoil. So, I mean, there's some potential there. Still running into that whole visual recoil thing with all the MW3 guns. So the build, we're going to run that Jack Glassless Quartermaster Suppressor, the long barrel 40 round mag, and the Rifleman 200 stock. This was running the game for so long. First damage range is 35 meters, so I mean that's okay. Now, the close range meta for Season 6 was the static HV. This guy was running everything for Season 6, ranked, rebirth, Urzikstan, you name it. Nice thing about it is that it's got that 50 round mag, so you don't need to add a mag to it, which allows you to get an optic on it, which a lot of people opted for the Jack Glassless. Now, it's definitely not what it once was. Like we were saying, build, because you don't need to add a mag to it, and you get the 50 rounds from it default with no actual option for a mag. A lot of people will add the Jack Glassless to it, just makes it a little cleaner. This thing was what everybody was using during the World Series of Warzone. This is going to be the build we're going to run now today. Tweaked it just a little bit with a few changes to some of the equipment, some of the attachments that we've had, but I think this is going to be the way to go. So when we take a look over here at the TTK chart for the D tier, we can see that it's just way longer out there. You're at 900 milliseconds almost versus like 650 for the Krieg. So I just don't think it's going to be viable, but we're going to give it a go. Same goes for the static. You're up way past 600, more like 650. If you like it and you hit your shots, maybe it'll work, but I just think in the ultra competitive close range on Rebirth, it's going to suffer against the LC10 way too much. But again, let's give it a rip, see what happens. Fuck, okay.
Oh my god.
Well, this gun just sucks. Oh my god, this thing is horrible. See, Krieg, he's dead. So like the other long-range options from MW3, the D tier suffers from the same problems. That visual shake and visual recoil is just horrendous, and it makes it difficult to hit your shots at range and contest against people running Kriegs, Velos, AMAX, you name it. You're just not able to hit shots, at least for me. The static was okay. I mean, the TTK, like we talked about earlier, is just so much bigger than we want it to be and so much longer that I think unless you absolutely break some cameras like I did to a few people, you're just not going to win any head-to-head gunfights with an LC10, with a Ladger, with a C9, you name it. Pick a BO6 weapon. You're just not going to do it. So here I've got a higher kill gameplay, solo squads on Rebirth, where I kind of show you some of those differences and you can highlight them and see what I'm talking about when I'm comparing these MW3 weapons to the Krieg C to the LC10. I'll share with you the builds at the end. I was able to get into a flow here, even grab my Gunfighter 8 attachment Krieg, which went a long way to helping. Can I clutch it up? Can we get the dub? We'll have a peek, let's see. Your other people solo squading here. You can tell that by the team is Okay, there we go. Yeah. No, guys. Okay. There we go. Definitely C9's worth using. I still think the LC-10 is far and away the obvious choice for the meta, but the C9 is definitely an option. If you like it, you're comfortable with it, you're not going to be completely and utterly outgunned. Somebody. This might be. Yep. We gotta get going. Ew, that was not good, chat. We missed a lot of shots there. But timing that well won us that gunfight, right? Timing that chow is what won us that gunfight.
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the sky.
You really should not have flown back in.
TACOM, requesting recon overhead.
Free kill.
Changing mag.
You take free kills. Whoa! How? Okay, let's see this. No, I want to see this because I feel like I hit my shots. Maybe he got first bullet off. Don't think I can come up with. That's all I got. Okay.
Enemy deployed and advanced UAV.
Give me eyes on the sky. Switching maps.
Gas moving.
Yeah, that guy's still up there.
Flag down.
Fire failed.
Reloading.
I'm pulling it up. Got him, let's go.
Dude, how the fuck?
Oh, I couldn't even see. Yeah, there's stuff.
Target down. Target surrender.
Well, actually,
Daily authorizing UAV mission.
my friend's gonna be watching the night.
Okay, chat, we gotta lock this shit in. Get on above for sure.
Changing maps.
Enemy UAV is
Takes more than that to finish me. Healing up. Not done yet. Last mag.
We're really low on ammo. That's gonna be the biggest problem here. We gotta pick our shots smart.
Ten enemies eliminated.
Hold up.
So build for the Krieg C, your overkill, which I find I grab more often than not on Rebirth. Optic of your choice, I'm liking the Dobrik MF. Compensator, gain twist barrel for that extra bullet velocity, vertical foregrip, and extended mag 2. When we switch to the gunfighter, we're able to grab that. I add the commando grip, balanced stock, and some recoil springs just to make this thing absolutely beam. You can change up the compensator for the monolithic when you're picking up the extra recoil control with the springs if you want. I'm not worried about staying silent on Rebirth. I just don't think it's as big a deal, but that's going to be a personal preference thing. On the LC10, we're going to run compensator, long barrel, ranger foregrip for some extra movement, extended mag 2, and the balanced stock. This thing doesn't have a ton of recoil, so you're able to get away without going with the vertical on this one, run the ranger, get you some extra movement, help with that one for sure. Hey, if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. And I'm going to assume you happen to like the video. So why don't you go down and like the video below? And if you happen to find any of this useful and want to stay updated, changes, videos like this on metas, comparing stuff, all of that type of thing, we do it all the time. Subscribe down below and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss another video. As always, keep the energy high, the vibes positive, and until next time, spread the love, fam. We'll catch you in the next one.